What if I told you that we are about to witness the biggest move of wealth in modern times? From now until the end of the year, I could tell you that Bitcoin could reach $200,000, Ethereum could more than double, and XRP could go on a run that no one is ready for. These are not just wild ideas. This comes straight from some of the smartest macro analysts working today, like Tom Lee, who has been way ahead of the curve on Bitcoin for years. And once you know what this means for XRP, you'll understand why this bull run could be one of the best chances you ever have. This is not advice about money. Let's take this one step at a time, as the math will blow your mind. Thomas Lee thinks that Bitcoin might reach $200,000 before the end of the year. In other words, that's about twice as much as it is now. He also thinks that Ethereum could have more upside than Bitcoin during the same time period. This is because Ethereum is more than just a cryptocurrency. It's a network where Wall Street, AI, and decentralized finance are coming together. In 5 years, he thinks Ethereum will about $60,000 for every ETH. Take that in. That would be dozens of times higher than it is now. But now things get really interesting for people who own XRP. XRP has grown much more than Bitcoin every time it has doubled in the past. It has grown 5 to 6 times during Bitcoin's twofold moves. That pattern is very likely to happen again. If Bitcoin does reach $200,000 by the end of the year, XRP could likely reach $15 to $18 around the same time. Take a look at that. Trading levels for XRP that were once unthinkable could become possible all of a sudden. It's possible that interest rates will go down in September and maybe again in October. That's very important because lowering interest rates makes money available. When the market has more liquidity, more capital is looking for assets that do well. There is also crypto like Bitcoin and Ethereum, very high on that list. But here's what most people don't know. It's not enough for institutions to just invest in ETFs. A straight link between stocks and crypto is what they want. Since 2020, MicroStrategy has been one of the best stocks in the market because of this. Back then, each MicroStrategy share was worth only $1. The price of the stock was $13. It had been 5 years, and now each share was worth more than $227. It wasn't just a 10x gain for MicroStrategy's why? Bitcoin price rise, it was over 30x, because their treasury plan made the risk bigger. This is what Michael Saylor calls leverage Bitcoin. He's right. Since 2020, MicroStrategy has done better than even Nvidia. Think about what this means for XRP now. Ethereum builds networks, but XRP is the currency that connects all of them and makes them liquid around the world. For fast, cheap payment on a large scale, XRP was made. What asset like real estate, bonds, or commodities would gain the most from being the bridge currency as more institutions turn them into tokens? XRP. When Bitcoin doubles, money pours into altcoins like XRP. It doesn't just slowly go into these assets, though. It bursts. Tom Lee also said that Ethereum might one day be worth more than Bitcoin on the network. Over the next 5 years, he gave it a 50-50 chance. You can see how big the gain is for Ethereum from that. And if Ethereum can do that, just think about what XRP does as the real funding layer below both of them. A lot of people don't realize how valuable that is. There is more than just speculation. Institutions will depend on usefulness every single day. Let's take a moment to think about the future. Ethereum to $60,000 and Bitcoin to $1 million one day. What does XRP look like in that world if those prices are correct? It's not 50 cents, $1, or even $10. Over time, as the network grows, each coin could be worth hundreds of dollars. It's important for world settlement that usage scales. We're looking at the unbalanced bet right now. Once more, this isn't about going with the flow. When you figure out where other people will pile in tomorrow, you'll make the money, not where they are putting in today. Everyone is crazy about AI, Bitcoin ETFs, and Ethereum staking right now. In the meantime, XRP is slowly growing, with banks starting to use it for real, cross-border payments happening, and tokenization tests happening. XRP could be the most rapid mover in the market when the focus changes, which it will. What if Bitcoin reaches $200,000? Ethereum grows by a lot. More work is being done on blockchain technology by institutions. Where does XRP go? 5 to 6 times the lowest price today based on history. That's why $15 to $18 is a safe price range for now. And in the long run, anything is possible. Here's where the faith comes in. Tom Lee isn't just making numbers up to sound interesting. His past actions show that he's ready to back up big decisions. The bottom of Bitcoin was called by him in 2018. He called the moves to get better. He now says $200,000 before the end of the year. So far, history has shown that he's generally right. If that's the case, this is one of the best times for crypto investors in years. XRP is the asymmetric play, even though Bitcoin and Ethereum get most of the attention. The one that, if you get there early enough, can turn a small job into one that changes your life. That's why I'm concentrating so hard on it right now. The picture is very clear when you take a step back and look at the whole thing. There are rate cuts, more money entering the system, less risk for institutions, and a slow return of greed in the mood of regular people. Everything is set up for a bull run that only happens once every 10 years. This time is different, though, because the crypto system is a lot more stable. There are now ETFs, banks offer custody services, and officials know more about the area. This means that the next wave will be bigger, faster, and last longer than the last one. Tom Lee made a very important point. MicroStrategy and other stocks linked to crypto have played a much bigger part than most people think. And if that's true for businesses that are connected to Bitcoin, just think about what will happen when real-world assets start being turned into tokens on Ethereum and banks use XRP for funding. Any longer are we just talking about guesses? The core of a new banking system is what we're talking about. Let's learn more about this idea of tokenization, which is at the heart of where this is all going. The world's real estate market is worth hundreds of trillions of dollars all by itself. If even a small part of that is tokenized, which means that property ownership, titles, and transactions are recorded on blockchain instead of old-fashioned paper records, it will make a huge amount of cash. Today, real estate is famously hard to sell. You can't quickly sell a small part of your house. You can, though, with tokenization. When that happens, you need an asset that can help you make those moves quickly and cheaply. That's where XRP comes in. Let's multiply that by more than just real estate. Add in bonds, stocks, commodities, and more. When a market is tokenized, it becomes more open in every way. And the thing that was picked to connect these tokenized worlds, that is the golden ticket. That's not what Bitcoin is for. The base could be Ethereum, but XRP was made to be the link. It's what the business world of the future will be built on. And this isn't just a guess. XRP is already being tested by banks, payment providers, and settlement groups. There have already been agreements and pilot projects, and when central banks start to scale tokenized assets, XRP will be the best way to get cash. That's why it doesn't make sense to compare XRP's gain to Bitcoin or Ethereum. They all live in the same ecosystem, but they play different parts. This is where you can keep your money. Ethereum is a place for builders. XRP is the link. Think about what Tom Lee said about Ethereum's chance to change the value of the Bitcoin network. He said it was about 50%. That alone shows how seriously Ethereum is taken by Wall Street. But here's the thing. An important part of the picture for XRP becomes clear once financial institutions begin to study how global payment works. They don't care about jokes or hype. They care about how fast, cheap, and reliable it is. XRP does all three of these things well. This is also the reason why XRP has done better in the past during rising markets. It does more than just follow Bitcoin's moves, it makes them bigger. XRP didn't just double along with Bitcoin, it grew 5 or 6 times bigger. That's because money naturally flows from the biggest assets to the next level, which has a better chance of going up in value. And XRP is one of the most popular and widely used choices in the next group. Capital is drawn to it when motion changes. Another thing to think about is how buyers think and feel. Small investors are focusing very hard on Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum staking income at the moment, forgotten about XRP, but that's exactly why there is an asymmetric gain. The move might already be halfway done by the time the public changes its mind and starts to chase XRP. The benefit of being early is that you can place yourself before the story catches up. Now let's look at this in the bigger picture of macroeconomics. When rates go down, it's cheaper to borrow money, which feeds risky assets. When inflation goes down, buyers look for growth. At the same time, the use of AI is growing very quickly, and a lot of its infrastructure is being built on Ethereum and other similar platforms. Now you have crypto and AI, two huge trends that are feeding into each other. Ethereum is right where those two lines meet. XRP will also gain as more people use these new tokenized systems and need cash. One more important reason is the difference in wealth. Tom Lee said that crypto is actually making it easier for everyone to get rich. People with a lot of money can't invest in private equity or venture capital, but anyone can buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, or XRP. In other words, when these investments go up in value, they don't just help institutions, they also flow to regular people. And widespread usage makes demand stronger and more stable. It is important to remember that Bitcoin's run has been completely unusual so far. That story, from $11,000 in 2020 to possibly six figures this year, is one of the best investment gains of all time. If that's possible for Bitcoin, then what's stopping Ethereum from reaching $60,000? What if XRP finally made it and claimed its place as the world's bridge asset? These changes are so big that they make even the biggest stock market rises look small. If Bitcoin doubles, Ethereum more than doubles, and XRP multiplies 5 or 6 times, then trillions of dollars worth of new value will be formed in less than a year. It's not a slow rise, it looks like a wave. When that wave comes, it doesn't just help the big names, it helps everything around them as well. Builders, infrastructure companies, markets, and payment service providers all make money. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP are, however, the ones that really matter. Let's talk about time too. The market goes through cycles. Late in 2021 was the peak of the last crypto bull run. It took almost 2 years to fix the mistake. That fits with what has happened in the past. Huge runs, painful corrections, and then another charge that is even bigger than the last one. Just like in the past, we're at the start of that new rise right now. The cause has been Bitcoin ETFs. Rate cuts are about to make things go faster. When retail FOMO strikes again, XRP will likely go up even more quickly than almost anything else. It's almost funny. XRP has been looked down upon for years because it is caught in regulatory fights and isn't as popular as Bitcoin and Ethereum. However, those headwinds are now tailwinds. It's getting closer than ever to clear regulations. Adoption by institutions is slowly moving forward. And when the light goes out, XRP's design starts to shine in ways that no other asset can. So this is the big picture. The doubling of Bitcoin sets the scene. The story of widespread acceptance is made possible by Ethereum's growth. XRP's explosion proves that digital assets play a part in global liquidity. You don't just have a bull run when all three of these things happen at the same time. You have set the stage for the next era of finance. Now, before it's obvious, investors who see that are the ones who stand to win the most. The most interesting part, there is no need to wait 10 years. The next 6 to 12 months are very important. That's how close this is to happening right now. Let's move on to where the real exponential growth comes from. Besides Bitcoin's and Ethereum's price increases, when tokenization goes mainstream and XRP proves to be the key link, the upside possibility is like nothing we've seen before. The exponential part of growth starts when speculation and utility finally match up. In the past, stories had a big impact on crypto prices. Blockchain-based apps for Ethereum, digital gold for Bitcoin, and quick payment for XRP. But the adoption didn't happen as quickly as was promised. That's not true anymore. These days, organizations are building. Tokenized notes are being looked at by governments. Banks are testing settlement systems built on the blockchain. And AI companies are using blockchain to keep data safe and make sure deals are real. The base is now in place. Do tokenization all over again. Tokenizing assets turns things that aren't easy to sell into markets that are. A $500,000 home is no longer just a piece of land on a deed. It could be turned into 500,000 units that can be traded. That means that buyers and sellers can deal with small amounts right away. There's no need for a bank to help. You don't need a lawyer to write up a bunch of papers. Everything is checked out on the blockchain. As a result, there are now lower costs, faster payments, more participants around the world, and most importantly, more people who need cash. Next, think about what that cash needs. One that can be used to settle transactions quickly and safely across currencies, locations, and systems. That's what XRP is used for. Value transfer is getting digital with the rest of the world. While Bitcoin protects wealth as a store of value and Ethereum makes it possible to program money, XRP makes it possible for everyday trades to happen on a large scale. As assets worth trillions of dollars move to tokenized form, that job becomes more important. Think about what rate cuts would mean here as well. When interest rates go down, risky investments become more appealing. There is a look for yield, growth, and assets that can make more money. On the other hand, bonds, savings accounts, and even real estate in the traditional banking system offer lower returns. That makes it so that a lot of money moves into crypto, not just for speculation, but also because it's one of the few places left where you can make huge returns very quickly. And history shows that money doesn't stop flowing into Bitcoin and Ethereum once it does. One of the best things about this cascading impact has always been XRP. It can be bought and sold easily, and it's not the same as the meme tokens that also draw speculative money. Institutions are aware of and trust XRP's infrastructure and use case. That's why when the altcoin wave comes, XRP could be one of the biggest winners, just like it has been in the past. These numbers are important to Tom Lee. It's possible to have a Bitcoin worth $1 million. It's the result of supply, adoption, and societal demand working together as planned. A $60,000 Ethereum isn't just a sign of hope. Real work from companies like Mosaics that project adoption curves is what it's built on. When those prices look like they could happen, the idea that XRP could be worth hundreds of dollars per coin stops being a what if and becomes a when. Because if XRP is used to move money around the world, its value has to reflect that. Look at the list of stocks one more time. It's not just that Bitcoin went up, MicroStrategy's value went up too. It went from $13 to almost $400. That shows how positioning and leverage can turn even big wins into huge ones. The same thing can be said about XRP. Because of how it's built, it can increase usage in ways that Bitcoin and Ethereum can't. This isn't just about the next year or 5 years. It will take decades for all of the world's goods to be turned into tokens. Property, bonds, swaps, and even intellectual property can all be moved to blockchain. When that happens, the amount of cash in tokenized form around the world could be more than $100 trillion. What is the layer of settlement below that? Moving money by wire won't take 3 days. Payment rails won't be the ones who charge 3% fees. Blockchain will be used, and XRP is planned to be the currency that connects everything. That's why we need to act quickly right now. This trip isn't over yet. The next wave is just starting. The things that Tom Lee brought up, like rate cuts, institutional stock exposure, and network value flipping, are not vague. These are real events that set off these triggers. September's coming up soon. October comes right after. It's not about something that will happen years from now. Setting up is going on right now, and how the market thinks is very important. Investors have lost a lot of money after 2 years of losses. They are careful, unsure, and waiting for proof. This window is there to help with that doubt. When confidence comes back and everyone starts to chase the rally, the asymmetric chances will have already been taken advantage of. The market works that way. Early determination is a good thing. The price is paid for being convicted late. Now, what do? Bitcoin is likely to reach $200,000 before the end of the year. Ethereum with even more short-term gains and a 50-50 chance to change the value of Bitcoin over time. Watch out for XRP, the silent giant, to go up 5 to 6 times in the next few months. It could be worth hundreds of dollars later on, once tokenization and global usage are fully underway. It's hard to believe how big what's possible is, but the way forward is now more clear than ever. I want to make sure you're ready for this next part.